affected by that rule, the diocese has to have all its rules in place. I mean, it has to say
Right.
state procedure, federal procedure.
Right.
Everything that would govern the trial as a rule has got to be in place.
Right. And with the members of this group that were working together, we made that really clear back, I guess it was about 2011 or 12, because we realized that there were many dioceses that had not set up a process, it's called a mode, for the hearing in the canons. And so there's many out there, online, or you can call me and I'll send you some.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we would just want to say, Jeff, for the sake of our listening audience, that if in your diocese you don't have that mode or process, you haven't decided things like what standards, federal rules, state rules of evidence, you'd want to get those in place as soon as possible.
Phil, just a question on that. If you did not have those and a trial were to arise, I think one way to resolve that would be to agree, to have the parties agree before the trial began.
That would be a very good way to proceed until you actually enact
Yeah.
in your diocesan council or synod canons to that effect.
And it's, if you don't have that, then the only other mode would be for for your bishop to request the presiding judge in the court of extraordinary jurisdiction to come and be your trial court. And I don't know where that would meet. It probably wouldn't be local.
Yeah.
Because these are, that's a national court. The members are listed on the roster and on the webpage. I don't know what people would do. Do you, Phil?
No, I don't think we'd ever want to be in that position. And it's something you certainly should be able to negotiate, as Rich has suggested, if you don't have any kind of Title IV canons or process in place. But my guess is almost everybody here has some canons in place, and it would be good as chancellors to go back and fill in what's missing. Neither the Court of Extraordinary Jurisdiction nor the Provincial Tribunal have ever met. So we don't want to give them any business if we don't have to, but we want to be ready, so just in case.
Just a couple of personal thoughts here. I know many of you have probably read Dr. Packer's book about the 39 articles when it came out in the early 80s. He talked about the 39 articles being the road fences. This is an area beyond which we will not go. So for the road that we're traveling on, that Kingdom Road, and where the rubber meets the road, often ends up in our lap as ecclesiastical lawyers, because there's still going to be bumps and crashes and twists and turns on that road, because we're human. So that's going to occur, unfortunately, until the Lord comes back. We're going to have work to do. Very quickly, I don't know if any of you know Bob Seger, but he had a song, Against the Wind, and there was one line in there, and it said, "I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then." And it was later made a big, huge hit by a country music singer. But he took that one line and made an entire song out of it. And but I say this sometimes, I wish I didn't have to know now what I didn't know then. Because it means that someone has gotten in a jam and something has gone sideways in the process. And I'm glad to have been involved, but I wish I didn't have to know all that I know. I do want to share also my one favorite canon law aphorism. Don't use the canons as a hammer. Don't let your bishop, encourage your bishop not to use the canons as a hammer. Because if the wood is dry, you may only create splinters. If the wood is green, you may only create and indelible deep grooves. I want to share one or two words from our mentor, Hugo. I know sometimes we spend a lot of time as a provincial council and assembly redoing our canons, but as Hugo said, to the degree that the church and its congregations are always reforming, as the great Anglican reformers themselves insisted, Ecclesia semper reformanda est. The canons of the church and its diocese will always be in need of review and adjustments to challenges. And these words of Hugo's are just too good not to share. Hugo always told us that with humility, grace, prayer, and a constant resort to the biblical principles and practices behind the law, a chancellor has the God-given opportunity to see that such simmering goes well. It is very clear that the role of a chancellor is a calling and not another job. May we all find Christ in his call to serve in his church as chancellors, the grace to always do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly before our God. Scott, we'll be back to you.
I'll do the handoff. Thank you, Jeff. This is loud. Thank you, Jeff. That was very, very helpful. We're going to now have a chance to hear from Mose Stewart with some of his observations. Before we have Mose come up, I'd like to ask everyone to just take a second, stand up. If you need a beverage, you have 60 seconds to refresh your beverage, but only 60 seconds. Or to change, yes, no procedural changes in the 60